What happens when love isn't enough to keep you safe? It took me years, but I finally walked away from a life of constant abuse to reclaiming my freedom. For too long, I stayed silent and endured the pain, but the day came when I found the courage to leave and never look back. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when I first encountered the storm that would completely uproot my life. The sky was dark and heavy with clouds, a mirror of the turmoil brewing within the walls of my home. My heart raced as I paced back and forth in the living room, trying to make sense of the situation that had just been thrust upon me. The phone call from my sister Claire was still ringing in my ears, echoing in my mind like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. This wasn't the usual call from Claire. This was different. This was urgent, terrifying, and it left me in a state of disbelief. Claire had been struggling for months, trying to keep everything together while hiding the mounting problems in her life. But now things had reached a breaking point. Her financial troubles were no longer something she could manage alone. Debts she'd tried to outrun were closing in on her, and in a desperate attempt to dig herself out of the hole, she had borrowed money from the wrong people. People who didn't care about her well-being. Loan sharks, dangerous people. Now they were after her, demanding repayment, and Claire was terrified. Her voice trembled on the other end of the phone. "They're coming after me, and I don't know what to do. Please, I need your help. I don't have anyone else." I felt a knot twist in my stomach. The desperation in her voice shattered something inside me. How could I say no? How could I turn my back on my sister when she needed me most? But at the same time, how could I help? I had my own problems to worry about. My job, the mortgage, my own growing debts. I didn't have extra money to lend her. I had nothing to give. Yet, as the silence stretched between us, I realized I couldn't just leave her to face this alone. I spent the rest of the day lost in thought, weighing my options. I didn't know how I could possibly fix this, but I knew I couldn't stand by while my sister was in danger. That evening I sat down with Dave, my husband of 6 years. We lived in a small, modest house in a quiet neighborhood. We had a good life, but things were always tight financially. Dave was supportive, yes, but he was also practical. He wasn't someone who took risks easily, especially when it came to money. And this was a huge risk. "Dave, I need to talk to you about something," I said, my voice low and hesitant. "It's about Claire. She's in serious trouble, and she needs my help. She's in debt to some really dangerous people." Dave set his newspaper down and looked at me with concern, though I could see the worry creeping into his eyes. "What kind of trouble? And what do you mean, dangerous people?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "She owes money to loan sharks. They've been threatening her, and now they're coming after her. I have to help her, Dave. I can't just let her face this alone." His eyes narrowed, and he leaned back in his chair. "We can't afford to take on more debt. You know that. We're barely getting by as it is. And you're asking me to help her? With what exactly? How are we supposed to help her without digging ourselves deeper into our own problems?" I could see his point. We were living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with bills. The thought of borrowing more money, taking on more debt, it was terrifying. But my heart was already made up. I couldn't leave Claire in this mess. "I know," I said, feeling my throat tighten, "but she's my sister. Dave, I can't just let her be alone in this. She's already scared, and I'm the only one. She's asking for help." Dave didn't respond right away. He rubbed his forehead and looked away, clearly torn. I could see the hesitation in his eyes. He was worried about the same things I was, but I knew there was no other choice. "I'll help her," I said, my voice shaky but resolute. "I have to. I know it's a risk, but she's family. We can figure it out, I promise." Dave looked at me, his face a mixture of frustration and resignation. He didn't like it, but he knew me too well to argue. He knew once I'd made up my mind, there was no changing it. And so I began making plans. I reached out to friends and family, trying to scrape together the money Claire needed to pay off the loan sharks and buy her some time. I called my mom, my aunt, anyone I could think of who might be able to help, even if it was just a little bit. I knew that if I didn't act fast, the consequences could be devastating. For the first few days, I was consumed by the overwhelming task ahead. The constant phone calls, the financial juggling, the stress of not knowing if I was doing enough. It was too much to handle, but I couldn't stop.